In this video, I'll outline the expectations for the portfolio pre-assessment. It's really not meant to be a super difficult assignment. Really what I want to do is get a sense for what you know about these course concepts at the beginning of the semester. Then at the end of the semester, there'll be a post-assessment, and you'll be able to see how far you've come in your understanding. So as you go through and look at these different categories, I want you to kind of pick the ones you feel most comfortable with. If there are ones you don't know anything about, leave them alone. Focus on the ones you do. At the end of the semester, you'll be able to come back and you'll be able to touch on any of these because you will have encountered them many different times. So you're going to want to write about a 2-page response. It seems like a lot, but after you start writing, you're going to see that it's not going to be that difficult to fill that space. So what I'm asking you to do is to look at these WPA outcomes: rhetorical knowledge, critical thinking, reading and composing, process, and knowledge of conventions. You're also going to look at the habits of the mind, and we'll get to them later. There are 8 habits of the mind. I just want you to look at them. And with each one, there are bullet points. Ask yourself, do I have any experience in these areas? And when I ask you if you have experience, it's not just experience from classes. You can look at work you've done in a course for sure. That's always going to be fine. If you're coming from another English class, by all means, address those points. But it could be something you've written in a professional setting. Maybe you have to write a lot of emails at work, or you do memos, you give presentations, you write reports. You might have encountered some of these concepts and not really used the language that we're using, but you're dealing with the concepts. Use that as evidence. Written communications, or anything you do with family, social media sites, if you post a lot, if you're emailing with people, if you have your own blog, whatever it may be, you can cite that as a piece of evidence in either one of the assessments, the pre or the post. Do you write for creative outlets? Do you write for fun? Do you keep a journal? Do you write in other ways? Just put those out there. Anything you do in the community, maybe with your church, maybe with another organization you work with. All of those points are going to be relevant as far as evidence goes in this paper. So what you're going to want to do, you're going to want to pick a couple of bullet points. Here it says 2 to 3 under each section, but if you just have 2 to 3 or 4 that you cover for the whole paper, that may be enough. You're going to pick out a couple of the bullet points, and you're just going to write about them. And you're going to use evidence from your life, whatever you've written in whatever area of your life you write in. And you're going to briefly discuss that outcome and what you have encountered or what you've done in that area. Same thing with the habits of mind. So let's scroll down and look at this rhetorical knowledge. You may not have ever heard of rhetorical concepts, the first bullet point here. If you haven't, leave that bullet point alone. Some of you may have taken an AP class in high school, or you've taken another English class where they talk about rhetorical concepts. Write about what you know about that. Did you write a paper in that area? Did you understand something about that? Basically, rhetorical concepts are about adapting to situations. Do you address your boss in the same way you addressed your friend? That's you adapting to audiences. If you're asking for a favor from somebody, do you encounter or interact with them in the same way you would if they owed you money? You probably wouldn't. We adapt to these situations. So that's really what that bullet point is about. Another one. Do you shift your tone? Again, just illuminating, going into more detail about what that first bullet point means. So you can touch on either of those. You gain experience reading and composing from different genres. So genres are kinds of text. Do you read textbooks in the same way that you read magazines? Probably not. Textbooks, you assume there will be tests or some other thing you need to know that you may have to retain for a long time. Whereas magazines, they might go in one ear and out the other. Do you read a diverse range of texts? Talk about that. Do you look at evidence? Do you scrutinize evidence? Do you look at the interplay between the verbal and nonverbal elements of something, if it's a documentary or a play? We're talking about text here, so reading can be anything. Do you evaluate text for credibility? We all do. We all watch the news. We all read different sources. How do you do that? What do you do? What is your process for that? Write about that. Use an example from your life if you need to. We move down to the process. Do you develop projects through multiple drafts? You may have in your working life, maybe you have to write a memo for work, or you have to write an email to somebody who's important, and you ask people around the office what they think about this before you actually send it out. That's you working through multiple drafts. And then knowledge of conventions. Do you understand genres, conventions, and sentence structure, paragraph, tone, whatever you know about sentence structure or those sorts of things? Write about that. Where did you learn it? What do you know? Anything could be fine. Now we move down to the habits of the mind. Curiosity, openness, engagement, creativity, persistence, responsibility. You're just going to pick a couple of these and write about them. Are you curious about ideas? Do you find a topic, you see an article, and you just start going after it as heavy as you can to figure out as much as you can? Write about that. Write about one example of that. You work through issues and then just persistent, no matter what happens. You keep working through that long-term project. You're somebody who struggles in an area. Write about that. That's fine too, and give an example of that. That's all we're doing. We're just picking a couple of these and we're giving examples.